to do it for your health, because running out of a chicken is going to get you out of breath so fast, you'll think you exercised when you didn't. Another great reason to have chickens, if you want them because they take care of bugs. A chicken can eat thousands of bugs in a week. So ticks in particular are bad around here, and we're not having cold winters anymore. That's a delicacy to chickens. I love it, right? Spiders, they love them. If they can get them, they'll get them. The problem is I can't get them. I don't know if they're getting. 2 questions online.
One for Roz, and one for you.
Okay.
It says, ask Ms. Roz how her neighbors respond to the chickens and roosters. I don't have any roosters.
Yes. Okay.
So can you repeat that so they can?
Yes. So she doesn't have any roosters. Roz doesn't have any roosters. And I will tell you, your neighbors will respond to your chickens depending on how you treat your chickens and your neighbors. If your chickens are cared for and you clean your coop, your neighbors aren't going to care about your chickens, because every once in a while, you're going to surprise them with a half dozen or a dozen of eggs, and they are going to love your chickens. They're going to tell you they keep their dogs on their leash for their chickens. But if you don't take care of that coop and you don't have a plan for the poop, yes, you will be creating a nuisance, because if a chicken does a pound a month and you got 30 chickens, that's 30 pounds of manure. Now, we're not picking that up all the time where we are every day, right? But it accumulates. And in smaller places where you just got a fence between your neighbor, that would be different. I'm on 21 acres. I'm a quarter mile off the road. Nobody's even seeing my chickens. They don't know they're there unless I've invited them to my property, right? That's different than someone who has urban chickens. I see the question about winter. Do you have to heat or put lamps to keep them warm? We have not heated the chickens to keep them warm in the winter. But what we did do was put up plastic to enclose their coop such that the wind couldn't get in as much. The plastic we use is thick enough that if it is doing its job, it can heat them up by about 20 degrees, 25 degrees more, okay? We did the same thing for our chicken coop because our turkey coop, because we like open air coops in parts so they can feel like they're animals that can go and come. And I want to be able to go into their coop comfortably. The little store-bought coops that you see sometimes, they're so cute, but when you got to try to get in there, it's like putting yourself in solitary confinement to get something if you got to go. It's terrible. It's terrible. So I like being able to walk in to my coop, and I like my sons being able to get in and get out, so that affords us a chance to work. And they get headspace. So if they flutter about, that's another activity. There was one other question. What do you think about goat farming? And then I would like to volunteer. Can I bring my nephew? He is 9. Kids are always welcome at my farm, especially if you're there with them. I'm not doing the rolling drop off like my aunt used to do. Y'all know what I'm talking about. I'll be back in 10 minutes. And then they show up Sunday morning for church with some clothes for their kids. I'm not the only one. I grew up in Memphis. So we're not doing drop offs, but yes, your kids are welcome and you are as well. In terms of goats, I love the idea of goats. I want goats. Goats are not an urban creature though. Okay. Goats, you need some space, and they need some space to be able to roam and eat. And I want goats, but I haven't been able to get them yet because I don't have the fencing for them yet. The cost for me to fence in some goats is going to be significant. And I got to move them around to feed them, and they're a little ornery. They're too much like me, I think, but I love that, but I haven't invested in it yet. But goats are great. Goats will clear your land for you, but the problem is they are not discerning. Goats will eat everything within reach, and they can get over a 10-foot fence. They are very smart. So you have to plan for goats, but they are a great animal. We long for them, but to be honest, I've been thinking about, my sons are starting to get up in age. So they'll be leaving in 2 or 3 years. And so I'm thinking about my second childhood. And that's the thing that's keeping me from goats, because I know my wife and I, we're going to be young still. We're going to want to travel. If we got goats, it's a wrap. You know, I'm not going anywhere unless I get a farmhand to live with me.
How do you take care of all that 21 acres? All that grass?
Well, I will tell you, if I were lying, I would say it was fun, but in the summer it's not. But what you do is you do everything, same thing you guys do. It's just on a different scale. I have a tractor, so I don't clear all the land. So when you have a large amount of land, you're strategic about what you cut. When I first got the land, it was all wooded. I cleared about 8 acres. Now, the problem with this is I've got to keep cutting about 8 acres. I'm not trying to clear as much as fast unless I have reason to do so, but you use your tractor, you use your zero turn. I was for a long time walking an acre to cut each week. It's great exercise. I was really fit. I was really tan, but I was really tired. And so, it depends. In the summer, it gets hard, but I'm excited about cutting the grass. Now, when you have a large piece of land and you have a big rectangle that you're cutting, it's almost like meditation. All you hear is the sound under your headphones of the mower. Nobody's stopping you because nobody wants to have to take the mower from you. You can walk back and forth and back and forth. And I've got 2 boys who are starting to be strapping and they're helping. So you just get it done. It's like nothing else. It's like everything else. You sassy enough. You got somebody chasing you and they'll cut if you want them, but don't leave them out there dead. See there? How do you get them back? Perfect question. So with animals like chickens and turkeys and goats and stuff, if you've had them for a while, you're taking care of their basic needs. You're taking care of their shelter, their food, their water, their security, right? And they grow accustomed to that. Now, even though they're our chickens, they still are technically wild animals, but they are much more domesticated now. Okay, the fact that Noah could just reach in and grab them, they see Noah every day. Okay, so when we put them in, you can train your chickens. Some people use bells and other things. What I have is a metal can, and I rattle the top of that can. It's time to throw some scratch and grain in their run, and the chickens will beat me to the run because they know what's happening. That's how. Yes, ma'am, Peggy. And wait, I think he was before you, Miss Peggy, then you? It's okay? Okay.
Just going to make a statement. I went to Tyson chicken place for 2. I worked at a chicken house, so they took all the mattresses there for 2. And we seen from the start to the finish how they would, start, get all the feathers off, and how they would cut the neck off, and all of the chicken just running around and hollering and just. I mean, that was a sight.
And that's a lot.
Every stage. I said, oh.
So if we were to kill one of our chickens, we would make sure we did it out of sight and out of sound from all of their peers. So when we did our turkeys, when animals get scared, the same thing happens to us. What do we have in our body coursing? Adrenaline, right? Because you're like, I could be hurt or I can hurt somebody. Adrenaline does not help the taste of meat. It's a good thing we're not eating when we're scared, right? But if you were to kill an animal while it's in a state of agitation like that, it actually releases all of that tension and those hormones into the meat. So from a perspective, that's one reason I say you're not tasting real chicken, because those chickens are not feeling comfortable when they know what's coming. And so that's a different experience for you in that way. I think there was a question back there, no? Well, it's okay. So after the first time I saw a chicken die, I was about, I think Bobby told a similar story last week. That's why I didn't tell it. I was about 9, 10. My grandparents kept a garden every year, which means I worked in the garden every year. For 3 years, my only goal was to create a row enough straight that my grandfather would say, "That a boy," because he never said it hardly unless it was perfect. And I was terrible at creating a straight row. So it was like a challenge for me, right? But one time, some of his relatives came from the country. We're from Moscow, Tennessee. And they brought some chickens. They were like, "Oh, we're having fresh chickens. We're going to slaughter it." And they knew about this, but I didn't. So they immediately killed the chicken and put it down. And if you've seen a chicken after it's been killed immediately, it dances, but it's not a pretty dance.
Yeah.
It looks like it's like a zombie coming to life almost. And it scarred me for a long time because I was like, what is that, right? And they laughed to no end because country folks were used to this life and death. We're the only species that hasn't gotten comfortable with the idea that our existence ends. And yet we live like we ain't got no tomorrow. And it's a strange place for us to be. But chickens, they're I guess is their nervous system continues to send signals from what it sent in that moment of anguish for a few moments, and its body's reacting even though it's not there.
There are other methods too. We use a, kind of like a hook. You hold them on side.
Yeah, you do that.
Twist the brain really quick.
And so when we did turkeys, you held them upside down because the blood rushes where? To the brain, right? And so if you're held up long enough upside down, what will you do? Does anybody know? You'll pass out. Exactly. So you do that because they'll try to relax. So they're trying to stay awake. So they try to relax themselves, but all the blood's rushing, and then you act real quickly. You can't let them see it. It's meant to be humane. We slaughtered, what, 4 turkeys last year? And we were going to slaughter a lot more, but after the work of doing 4, she talked about it's work. Like, we hand plucked every feather. Yeah, we weren't using a machine. We were doing this the old school way. And I've got 2 turkeys in my deep freezer now. I've just been too busy. We're like, when are we gonna cook these? Because they are ready to go. They were our turkeys, you know? And so you can, and I had a friend who got a fresh turkey and never had a fresh turkey for Thanksgiving. She made the turkey, and she said to me that at first she wasn't gonna be able to eat the turkey because she had seen it around and it was such a happy little bird. And then she saw her husband and her sons licking their finger and her daughter saying this is some good turkey, and she got over it. So I say that because Miss Peggy is looking like her heart's too big to try that turkey. She'll eat it once she sees everybody else tell her how good it is. I'm looking at time. I just want to go through my notes and see if there's anything I can tell you of use. If you're in a community with a homeowners association, you might want to check for whether or not they allow chickens. And if they do, it will in all likelihood just be hens. So get that. And they sometimes put a cap on the numbers. I've told you wild animals will eat your chickens, right? If you have a lawn that you are trying to keep pristine and like these imaginary lawns on TV, you don't want a chicken. Okay. Now, here's why. Chickens will scratch. And what they will leave sometimes if they have a small space that they're in every day are bare spots. That's why back in the day, if you saw chickens on farms, you see them and almost look like they were always on dirt, right? That's because they had scratched everything that was there and they hadn't gotten out any further. Some people create mobile chicken tractors, which are little wire covered things that they can move them around and have them be on a part of their land for a day. And that's great because you can move it through your garden in the off season, have them manuring in your garden, then come back and supplement later. But if you have a lawn that you're trying to keep fresh in your backyard, you probably are not committed to chickens if you're spending money on grass. But I mean, it's a choice. You can't eat that grass if times get hard. So you might want to do a balance, right? But they will go. We talked about vacation. Another note I have, remember, nothing good comes easy. And that's just one of those things. It was a reminder for myself, but it's a reminder to you. There will be challenges if you have responsibility for another life form that you cannot communicate with directly. And those challenges may end up being things like they break a leg and you've got to put it down if they can't live anymore, right? Or God forbid you wake up one day and you didn't lock your coop and a raccoon got in. It's not eating chickens. It's just killing them and taking whatever in their throat. It's a bloody sight to see a whole bunch of chickens killed. We sold, what was that, 10 or 14 turkeys last year? I think that was 14 we ended up selling to someone who wanted chickens in Memphis, and they were urban, but they had a little land. Next time I sell something that large, I will inspect their property first. Because within 2 months, they were calling saying they had lost all of the turkeys because they had not secured them appropriately and they wanted more. And I told them, nope, you're not buying any more of mine because you haven't shown any responsibility for it. They lost them all because they were not attentive. And the only reason I knew is because they called other people before they called me. They didn't want to call us back. They tried to find other people. So you really want to think about stuff like that. It's a responsibility. And when I say it's a responsibility like toddlers, that's intentional. Your teenagers are moody, but ultimately they ain't gonna die because they'll feed themselves somehow, some way if you make them wait long enough. They'll act like they don't know what to do, but they'll take care of it. A chicken, you need to be able to take care of them and you need to be responsible for it. And I think it's something sacred. For me, I am a person who likes to see myself as a steward of other things that I'm responsible for, whether or not it's the land or these turkeys or the chickens, right? And as a steward, I need to treat them with the same thought that it's a blessing that I have them, that I'm able to benefit from our coexistence. And I need to have a little respect for theirs. So you want them to live well. And hopefully if you take care of them, I can tell you 100% they will take care of you. Because from that chicken poop and the eggs, you really don't even think about chicken meat that much. If you garden, you don't think about it at all, you know? And I'll tell you, Camille loves the chickens. I've grown partial to turkeys. They are beautiful. They're dumb too. But the thing about turkeys, I like turkeys. The reason I like turkeys for two reasons. One, the males really are more serious about protecting the females. They'll puff up and make themselves look twice as big as they are and make a lot of noise, try to scare things away. They can't fly. The females can fly, but all turkeys can go about 30 miles an hour on ground. So you're not catching a turkey unless it really wants you to. The other piece is though, they are a group creature. Chickens, every one of them has a different personality. And even when they with each other, they'll be on their own stuff. Turkeys, if we let them out, if I see one turkey, I'll see them all because they're not moving within 20 feet away from each other. They stay together. Yeah, they're like ducks and they'll travel together like that. Chickens will go every which direction. So we just waiting on them to come back, right? But the turkeys aren't like that. Other questions or thoughts? I had someone share something about sheep, where they are developing the new Fraser Library. I know nothing about that.
Yeah, but we do know this. Where is that? Off of James Road, they selling sheep.
Okay, they're selling sheep. Okay, okay. And there are sheep all around for sale, sheep and goats. Yeah, yeah, all around me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I could throw a rock in any direction and find somebody selling sheep or goats, or if you want them. That's not an issue. And they're really big around significant Muslim holidays because they have to kill them a particular way and ensure that they are prepared appropriately. And the Hispanic communities are really into taking care of animals. You'll find the Hispanic community is much more likely to have chickens or goats than we are typically, even urbanly. Other questions or thoughts? I'm really enjoying this. I wanted to give you a few more pros and cons. Just make sure they reduce food waste, control pests, eggs galore, garden work. I'm skipping over some, but here's some of the cons. You require room, right? Exterior for them, both for their coop and for their run. They can be noisy, especially when they're laying eggs, but usually you will not get complaints from just hens because they're gonna lay their eggs and then they're pretty quiet for the rest of the day, you know? Yeah, they haven't made a lot of noise. They haven't made, and they drove in a car over here. Well, they didn't drive, but they rode in the back of a truck over here. Costs do pile up quickly. So let me just tell you, I wanted to hit on some numbers because if you're doing it for the money, you have to have a long-term perspective. To have a decent coop, you're gonna probably need at minimum about $300 worth of materials to build a coop that's sufficient for everything you need at minimum. And if you're handy, you can save on labor, or right. But if you're not handy, you might have to pay somebody or get somebody to help you build that coop. So that's a cost. And then you have running cost of food, right? And so we buy 50-pound bags of feed. And when I was doing research for this presentation, I was surprised because someone said a flock of 4 chickens could have a bag of 50 pounds of feed for 2 to 3 months. And I was like, really? I don't know how little they feed. Maybe I'm overfeeding because we've got 30 chickens and we go through a bag of feed every week. Now we're feeding the turkeys too. And so, you know, it can add up, but we're going through feed. And that bag of feed is about $20 now. It's gone up a lot in the last 3 years. It used to be $14.59 and now it's $20.49. And that's in the last 3 years. Yes, yes, the price goes up. But you can supplement that if you're able to let them free range like we do, because we can give them a little less because they're going to go out and find their own food as well. Okay. So, but costs are important to think. Make sure you can get used to chicken manure odor if you're in a small urban space. It's not that bad once you get used to it, but you've got to smell it. And they got some up here. You can get close. You probably won't smell it, but I mean, too much. But you want to at least know that because some people, I've got an aunt who has like a gag reflex for the smell of poo. Well, it does her no good to be around my chickens. Well, I'm about to throw up. Well, get away from my chickens. You know, I don't want you throwing up on them. So you want to think about that if you can't take the odor. The other thing I've mentioned, the chickens can live quite a while if you take care of them. There will come a point where your chicken will stop laying eggs and that chicken has a lot more life. You've got to decide how you're going to live. If you're going to keep it as a pet and just pay the cost of caring for it and let it ride out its life, or if you're going to make the tough choice, which we're not at yet, but we'll be at in a few years. If you're going to decide that, okay, I'm going to take this chicken out and turn it into a meal at some point, and how you're going to do it. A lot of people don't have the stomach for that. And you might have a pet, but you can't have 5 or 6 pets because then you're looking at what, $30, $40, $50 a month. And unless you're getting rid of all your streaming services, at some point, you're going to start looking at that cost and say, is it worth it? That's just a reality. The predators I've hit on. The other thing is chicken math. And Roz is a perfect example of chicken math. Whatever you think you want, plan for double or triple that at the front. And what you won't have to do is continue to add on as much. Because if you get the chickens are going to find their way to you. If people find out you have chickens and they can't keep them, they're going to be bringing chickens to you. You're going to end up with more chickens than you anticipated. So really think about the chicken math and know that in all likelihood, if you enjoy it, you're going to end up getting more birds, so you might as well plan for them. And if you don't get them, guess what? Your chickens are living large. They like on MTV Cribs, right? That's okay too. If I can't live large, at least my chickens can. I mean, I'm happy for somebody. I don't have, I'm just grateful for something. So that's another way of thinking about it. And finally, check your time. Not just your time right now, but project out for a couple of years. If you're in school, do you really want to start this big project that your mom's not interested in, then you're going to be leaving it to her or him or your dad, right? So really think about your time now, but also over the long run. And finally, have fun. I mean, I've only had dogs as an adult. We didn't have dogs when I was young. And creating a relationship where you have a relationship with another species is very interesting to me. And it's a lot of fun. But it's also a lot of responsibility. And you got to make sure you're keeping both of those balanced. Because if you're just working with your chickens and you're not enjoying them for the comedy and the brilliance that they will show you by being crazy, you're missing half of the reason to have them.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else? No? Please clap, I'll leave. Thank you. I've enjoyed you all. Only one? It comes out. That's an excellent question. It comes out from the rear.
I know he got a hole, but there's one.
It's back there. Yes, she want to see the hole. Noah.
No, but, yeah. No,
There's
only one upstairs.
Yes.
Or down there.
It's back here. I'm in there. Yep.
Everything comes out of
Would you like to grab one? Please.
Upstairs.
No, you can come to ensure that she's safe, but I think she's confident. Go ahead.
Do we have any more?
And you want to grab it by a wing and its head so it knows that you're holding it. There you go. Grab it and grab both wings so it can't flap. Never let you pick it up.
Yes.
Yes. What did she ask?
Would it be just that one hole that you often see?
So yes, that's a perfect example. You will sometimes see feathers. Very rarely you'll see blood. You can see poop, but usually the poop doesn't come from them laying the egg. It actually comes from them pooping around the egg because other birds will come around. Yeah. No, I was telling you, it's got that coating that protects it. But the moment you wash that egg, you wash it with what type of water? Warmer than the egg's temperature. I make sure people know that. And then you let it air dry, you put it in the fridge and you're good to go.
How do you get baby chicks without boosters missing?
You're not getting baby chickens without a rooster. That's what I said at the beginning. You're not trying to trick me into this question. If y'all want to talk about the birds and the bees, y'all can talk about the birds. So I will tell you, here's what I will tell you. I've seen the turkeys
Yeah.
and they get busy and it's aggressive. I was a lawyer who investigated sexual harassment for a part of my career. And I would have locked up every one of my turkeys I've seen because they abuse those female turkeys. They jump on their back and press them to the ground. And the turkeys are trying to get free and they are forcing themselves upon them. But you guys think of it from the terms of our sexual genitalia. It's not that way. They've actually got something that comes out that they're not having intercourse, but they've got something that protrudes out that releases what's needed to fertilize the egg. Okay, so it's not copulation. I'm sorry to spoil it for you. Yeah, but she gonna go find some chickens doing some stuff, and I don't want to be on that part of the internet.
Are there any more?
Any more questions? I thoroughly enjoyed you guys. Nah, someone saying something about a North Memphian. I can't see names though. But listen, guys, I've enjoyed you. I know Roz and I have, you gotta hold the feathers, hold the feathers. So give them the feathers. So, yep, get those feathers. There you go. And you did very well. You stayed very calm because most people just say, ah, and you stay with it. Oh, that was Bertram Williams. Oh, tell him I see him when I see him. Hey, Bertram. Have you had chicken before? No, I mean, have you eaten chicken before? You've touched chicken?
Oh, he said, great job for North Memphis.
Oh, I got it. For North Memphis. I got you.
Oh, my God.
I'm good. So I just want you all to know, I'll give you my telephone number and email if you have questions. Yes, and we can definitely one day set up a tour. A tour is going to be a quid pro quo. Y'all gonna come out for an hour tour and an hour of sitting in the shade, putting seeds in for seedlings, so we can do something. It's a give and take. We'll set that up. Yeah, and let's do it in the spring before it gets hot. Yes, let's do it in April. Okay, May at the latest. I would love that. But my telephone number is 901-415-4394. Camille also has it if you need to reach me. My email is really simple. KennethP.Anderson@gmail.com. The P does not stand for perfection, but if you believe that, I will leave that to your thoughts and accept it. But it's KennethP.Anderson@gmail.com. I would love to share this journey with you. It's a lot of excitement and fun and learning, but once you go chicken, they say you never go back. I got so many of these y'all aren't ready for. Let me stop. Thank y'all so much.